The fourth album curse is a very famous phenomenon in the music industry. It is a theory that even some of the biggest artists struggle to deliver on their fourth album. In this video, we'll look at 8 fourth albums that flopped in the 2020s. CXOXO by Camila Cabello. Camila Cabello's CXOXO, released on June 28, 2024, was an album that fell victim to the fourth album curse. Coming off the mixed reception of Familia in 2022, Camila took a huge risk, going into the hyperpop sound with the album. However, the rollout was rocky from the start. The lead single I Love It featuring Playboi Carti and He Knows It with Lil Nas X didn't generate the buzz expected, as they failed to dominate the charts, with I Love It peaking at number 81 on the Hot 100. The album debuted at number 13 on the Billboard 200, opening with less than 37,000 units in its first week. Sales-wise, CXOXO was a significant step down, a dramatic fall from her debut album Camila, which debuted at number 1 and included the global smash Havana. Even Familia, considered an underperformance at the time, had hits like Bam Bam. On streaming platforms, CXOXO failed to generate sticky hits, with most of the songs stuck below 10 million streams on Spotify. Critically, the album was divisive at best. Even though some fans admitted it grew on them, it struggled to connect with the mainstream audience and is considered a flop. Scarlet by Doja Cat. Doja Cat's Scarlet was intended to be a reinvention, a departure from the pop-heavy sound of Planet Her into more rapping. In the lead-up to the album release, Doja went to war with her fans, called her own music cash grabs. Released on September 22, 2023, Scarlet was meant to push away her casual fans with the demonic imagery and subversive visuals. She also intended to build her credibility as a rapper, but the result was polarizing, as the album alienated parts of her fan base. It debuted on number 4 on the Billboard 200 with 72,000 units sold in its first week, a big drop from Planet Her, which debuted on number 2 with 109,000 units in its first week and eventually went double platinum in the US. While Scarlet featured the viral TikTok hit Paint the Town Red, which hit number 1 on the Hot 100, and Agora Hills, which peaked at number 7, it lacked consistency through the track list. Critically, it received mixed reviews. Some praised her risk-taking, but many critics pointed out the lack of strong hooks, with this minimalist cover art and creepy music videos, and Doja even calling a certain section of her fanbase weird and openly dismissing the material that made her famous in the first place. The era didn't start on a good note and was part of the reason it underperformed. In 2024, she dropped the deluxe version of the album, and she stepped back from the spotlight after that. She is expected to come back later this year with her 5th studio album, rumored to be named Vi, and we'll have to wait to see how that does. Love and Hyperbole by Alessia Cara. Alessia Cara burst onto the scene in the mid-2010s as a relatable voice in pop music with her first hit Here, earning a Grammy for Best New Artist in 2018. Her first 3 albums, Know It All in 2015, The Pains of Growing in 2018, and In My Feelings in 2021, garnered critical praise and respectable chart performances. Know It All peaked at number 9 on the Billboard 200, and The Pains of Growing reached number 21, showcasing a steady commercial trajectory. However, her 4th studio album Love and Hyperbole, released in 2024, failed to resonate with any audience. The album's lead single Dead Man did not even chart on the Billboard Hot 100. The follow-ups didn't either. Commercially, Love and Hyperbole failed to even touch the Billboard 200, with first week sales reportedly under 10,000 units in the US, showing a substantial decline. The album is barely remembered now, and this underperformance marked the album as a significant commercial misstep, potentially indicating a need for Alessia to reinvent her sound or marketing strategy to regain her earlier momentum. Good to Know by JoJo. JoJo's Good to Know, released on May 1, 2020, was a milestone in her career, the first album since she got her freedom, following a grueling legal battle with her former label. While the album showcased her talent, it unfortunately failed to generate the kind of commercial buzz expected from her comeback. Good to Know debuted at number 33 on the Billboard 200 with less than 13,000 equivalent units sold in its first week, a huge step down from her first albums 15 years earlier. She was tied up with a decade-long legal battle, unable to release music for a long time. Despite being her first album in 4 years, none of the singles made it to the Billboard Hot 100. Man, the lead single, was released with some anticipation, but didn't manage to chart on the Billboard Hot 100 and fizzled out quickly. Even on streaming platforms like Spotify, the songs failed to get attention, with the biggest song on the album sitting below 50 million Spotify streams. Just 6 months later, she followed it up with another album, December Baby, which did even worse. Good to Know was decently received by the critics, but the timing of its release during the early phase of the COVID-19 pandemic stopped any chance of promotion or touring. Without a viral TikTok moment or strong visuals, the album came and went. JoJo finally got her creative freedom, but also has an uphill battle in the music industry, as she had been gone for a long time. High Road by Kesha. Kesha's career has been a roller coaster of highs and lows. After the global phenomenon of her first two albums, Animal in 2010 and Warrior in 2012, which produced multiple top 10 singles and significant sales, her career stood still because of a long legal battle with her former producer Dr. Luke. Her third album, Rainbow in 2017, was a big comeback, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200 with 116,000 album equivalent units sold and earning 2 Grammy nominations. It was critically acclaimed and set high expectations for her follow-up. Released in January 2020, High Road was intended to be a blend of her pop party anthems and the more low-key sound of Rainbow. However, the album struggled commercially. Its singles Raising Hell and My Own Dance failed to achieve chart success, not even touching the Billboard Hot 100, signaling a disconnect with the broader pop audience. High Road debuted at #7 on the Billboard 200, earning 45,000 album equivalent units in its first week. While the top 10 debut isn't a complete failure, it was a significant drop-off considering the hype. The album also spent far fewer weeks on the chart, falling off the charts quickly. Despite generally positive critical reviews, it was a notable flop in Kesha's discography. If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power by Halsey. Halsey's If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, released in August 2021, was her fourth studio album. The album saw her pivot towards a more rock-influenced sound, produced by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of 9 Inch Nails. Critics liked this darker, more mature sound, seeing it as a significant step forward. It also received a Grammy nomination for Best Rock Album. Despite the critical acclaim and a bold artistic statement, If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power struggled to translate into commercial success compared to Halsey's previous chart-topping albums, like Maniac in 2020 and Badlands in 2015. The album debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200, but with a relatively modest 98,000 album equivalent units in its first week. This was a sharp decline from Manic's debut of 239,000 units just a year prior. Its singles like I Am Not a Woman, I'm a God, which peaked at #64 on the Hot 100, failed to gain any significant traction on mainstream radio or the charts. The album's commercial underperformance was because of the genre shift and the lack of a standout single, and it went on to become another example of the fourth album curse. 12 Carat Toothache by Post Malone. Post Malone had established himself as one of the most commercially dominant artists in the late 2010s, churning out multi-platinum albums and numerous chart-topping singles that blended a lot of genres. His previous albums, Beer Bongs and Bentleys in 2018 and Hollywood's Bleeding in 2019, were massive successes, both debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200 and selling millions of units. So, after a 3-year hiatus, expectations were sky high for his fourth studio album, 12 Carat Toothache, released in June 2022. However, despite those lofty expectations and collaborations with big names, the album was a commercial downturn. While it debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200, its first week sales were a modest 121,000 units, which was low by his standards. It was a substantial drop from Hollywood's Bleeding, which debuted with 489,000 units, which was roughly a 75% decline. The album also failed to generate any smash hits. Even though I Like You with Doja Cat did decent, several factors contributed to its underperformance. The gap between albums and the pandemic shifting release strategies might have impacted its rollout. Post Malone's incredible run of diamond singles ended when we entered the 2020s, and 12 Carat Toothache became an example of the fourth album curse. They Got Amnesia by French Montana. French Montana has had a consistent presence in hip-hop for over a decade. Even though he was never a good rapper, he kept his name alive through collaborations. He released single after single, but had only released 3 albums when we entered the 2020s. His fourth studio album, They Got Amnesia, released in November 2021, was supposed to be a reminder of his contributions to hip-hop. However, The album struggled to make a significant commercial impact. It debuted at a disappointing number 59 on the Billboard 200, moving around 16,000 album units in its first week. This performance was notably weaker than his previous efforts, particularly his 2017 album Jungle Rules, which debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and sold 52,000 units in its first week. They Got Amnesia also had a controversy surrounding the tactics he used to get more first week sales and streams. And the cover was also a topic because of its allegedly fake abs. Despite features from major artists like Drake and Doja Cat, the album failed to resonate. Ultimately, They Got Amnesia became an album that struggled to remind the public of French Montana's legacy, and his career has really slowed down since then, as it is still his latest album. Which 4th albums that flopped in the 2020s did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.